Welcome everyone to another episode of A Dark Tale, where the stories get real dark, real fast. So without further ado, let's roll the intro. Welcome everyone to another episode of A Dark Tale, where we share with you 3 stories for tonight. And if you really love ghost stories, wait till you hear the last story for tonight. So let's not delay so much and let's dive into the first story of tonight. So let's play some music and get into the mood. So, hi, I've been a listener of your channel for a while now, and after hearing all the stories from your viewers, I finally gathered the courage to submit my own experience. I hope you can share this with your audience. Well, of course. My name is Anna. A few years ago, I finally landed a job at a tuition center. I was absolutely overjoyed because teaching has always been my dream job, and I finally found a company that I really liked. But because the center had just opened a brand new branch, I was stationed there to help kickstart things. Since it was new, there wasn't much happening yet. On most days, there were only about 2 or 3 staff members in the entire building. One particular evening, we only had one single class scheduled, which started at 7:30, just right after sundown. I arrived early, and at around 6:45 p.m, I went to the classroom to set up my materials before the kids arrived. Now, to give you a clearer picture of this specific branch, it's located in a shophouse unit. So there's a main door on the first floor, and after you climb up a flight of stairs, there's another entrance door to the center itself. So it's those where you go first floor and then you walk up the steps, then you get the second floor unit. So there's a door to the second floor unit. So this second door is extremely heavy, so we usually leave it ajar. That way the kids can easily knock or shout from outside, and the manager can go over and unlock it for them. So there I was, prepping my lesson in the empty classroom, when suddenly, boom, the heavy upstairs door slammed shut with an insane force. It was so loud that it made our manager jump out of her seat. I walked out of the classroom to check what happened, and I just saw my manager standing there, her face completely pale. She stammered that she had no idea how the door could have slammed like that, especially since it had never happened before. Honestly, I didn't think much of it at that time. I thought she was just overreacting. So I told myself it was probably just a sudden change in the air pressure. So you know how it works inside a building when you open one door and then another door like vibrates. So she thought it was just like that, but the manager was overreacting. So I brushed it off, went back into classroom and continued my work. And that's when I heard it. It's a very soft, faint crying sound. It sounded like it was coming from afar away. So she heard a crying sound coming from somewhere far away. It felt super weird because, like I said, the center was practically empty. But again, I tried to rationalize it and forced myself to focus on my lesson plan. But then this incredibly sweet, fragrant floral smell started to fill the room. And right as the scent got stronger, the crying sound started to get louder. It was as if whatever was crying was physically moving closer and closer, entering the exact same room as me. My stomach for some reason felt twisted. I started feeling incredibly uncomfortable because the crying sound eventually sounded like it was originating from right behind my back. Then, out of nowhere, everything went dead silent. The crying stopped, the air grew heavy, and I heard a distinct cold whisper right in my ears. So how it was is, when she was in the room, she heard this crying sound. She was looking around to make sure to find out what it was, but she couldn't see anyone. And then all of a sudden it went quiet, and I heard a distinct cold whisper right in my ears. I literally jumped out of my skin. Just nice, right at the exact terrifying second, I heard the main door click open. I looked up and saw my very first student walking into the center. I let out the biggest sigh of relief in my entire life. Thank goodness there was someone else there. I forced myself to calm down and taught the lesson as per normal. So after teaching and everything and the class ended, the students left, the manager and I were closing up the place. As we were locking up, I casually asked her, hey, did you hear anything weird earlier before the class started or not? She immediately froze. It was as if she knew what I was talking about. She looked around at the dark center, turned to me and whispered, can we speak below instead? So we quickly packed our bags, rushed down the stairs, and only when we were safely on the street below did she tell me everything. She confessed that when the company first leased the unit, she was the only one stationed there to set up a place. During those solo weeks, she experienced non-stop disturbances. She heard a young girl crying. She would hear sharp knocking sounds on the window, which was impossible because we were on the second floor and there was no ledge outside. There was even time she clearly heard heavy furniture like tables and chairs dragging and shifting around inside the locked rooms. But whenever she plucked up the courage to open the classroom doors, absolutely nothing had moved. But she said the absolute worst part happened one night when she turned off all the lights right before leaving. As she reached for the door, she caught sight of a dark shadow figure that looked like it was wearing a white dress, just standing in the furthest corner of the room, silently watching her leave. My manager looked at me and she was honestly so thankful when I got posted to this branch, because she finally had someone to accompany her in this creepy building. But she emphasized that the heavy door slamming shut by itself that evening, that was a first. It had never happened before. Fast forward to today, I've been working at this center for 3 years now, and since that evening, the heavy door has never closed by itself again. Over time, as we enrolled more students, the overall vibe and energy of the place completely shifted. Probably because of the positive, lively energy the kids brought with them. I've always been a bit of a believer in the paranormal, but also quite a skeptic. But what happened to me that evening is something I can never logically explain. Even now, 3 years later, whenever it's time to close out the center at night, you can still always feel like you are not alone. Like there's something in the corners just watching. So that was our first story for tonight, where a teacher felt a presence, or the center manager actually felt a presence of something, and at the end she actually saw a figure standing at the corner watching her as she leave. So comment down below, would you still work at this center? I mean, let's not talk about pay because I don't even know what's the range of pay they're getting, but would you work there if let's say you don't have a job and you got a job there? After experiencing all these disturbances alone, would you still work there? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would. So that was our first story for tonight. Again, this is a dark tale where we tell you stories that have been submitted to us. If you have a story of your own, don't forget to go down to TikTok, search a dark tale, and you can DM me your stories over there. We have had such a good response, and thank you to everyone here for sending in your stories. And I was thinking of doing an email where you can submit your stories to me, but the thing is that sometimes when you tell me the stories, I like to communicate with you, ask you some questions, and get a bit of the vibe of what's been happening. So if you guys got any creepy stories or anything at all, you can just share your stories with us tonight. Not tonight, but you can share your stories with us, and I'll read it in the next live if possible. So let's move on to the second story. So this second story is a bit long, but I promise you it's worth it, because when I read this story, the hair on my hands honestly stood up. So this story, it's basically it's happening at a 7-Eleven lah, about a person that's working in a 7-Eleven. And if you guys have ever worked at 7-Eleven, you know, because 7-Eleven is, most of the places are 24 hours. So there will probably be someone that's working the night shift. If you have worked the night shift in 7-Eleven or any shop at all, please comment down below, because I would love to know if you guys got any experiences. So let's go straight into the second story for tonight. Since it's a bit long, I will try my best to not make it too draggy, but I want you guys to hear every single detail of this story. So let's start the story for tonight. So this submission story reads: I would like to share my story on one specific experience that I had working the graveyard shift at 7-Eleven. So I chose this specific outlet because it's quite ulu lah. Ulu meaning that it's a bit off-road. It's not many people goes there lah. And it's also within walking distance. Honestly, the main reason I take the night shift is for my family. During the day, I take care of my grandmother. When my family comes back from work in the evening, that's my only chance to catch a quick nap before I head out for my shift. Since that outlet has almost zero foot traffic late at night, it's usually dead quiet. I've been working there for quite a while and nothing weird ever happened. I'll usually just rest my head on the counter and close my eyes to rest. Not sleeping. Just resting, you know. But this one night changed everything. It was roughly around 2:30 AM. I was resting my head on the counter when suddenly, ding ding, you know those 7-Eleven signature sound. So when people enter, you hear the motion sensor go ding ding. The door sensor rang out loud. I quickly sat up straight to compose myself, and a group of about 5 guys walked in. They grabbed a couple of drinks and some of those microwave meals. While after they paid, since there were so many of them, they had to take turns heating up the food at the counter. So while I was waiting for them to leave, I overheard their conversation, and honestly, I really wish I didn't. One of them said, so this is probably like a conversation between them lah. So I'm going to start going left and right to show that it's a different person lah. So let's try this. So the conversation went something like this. Honestly, that was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. I already told you we shouldn't have gone to Old Changi Hospital, choosing the most haunted location in Singapore to play the Ouija board. Ouija board, some people call it the Ouija board, but I'm going to call it the Ouija board. Choosing the most haunted location in Singapore to play the Ouija board is the dumbest thing to do. We should have at least started somewhere less scary. My heart literally dropped. I gulped. Like, are you serious? They played the Ouija board at Old Changi Hospital. But thinking this in my head, they will still continue talking. So one of the guys said, but you guys swear none of you moved the pointer. If anyone is playing a prank, just say it now. All of them just looked at each other and shook their head. Then one guy whispered, bro, but we are safe, right? Because we ended the game halfway. But on the car ride here, honestly, it felt so uncomfortable. I kept getting the chills. That's when the driver or whoever whispered back, that's why we cannot go home straight. We need to buang suay first. Go to a coffee shop or places like this 7-Eleven so that the entity won't follow us home. It will just stay at the next place instead. The exact moment he said that, one of the guys turned around and we accidentally locked eyes. He must have seen my face turn completely pale. He immediately shushed his friend, paid for the food, and hurried everyone out of the shop. I watched them stand outside the glass for a good while before they finally left. And the moment they disappeared, the quietness that I usually loved, it started to creep me out. I realized just how lonely and silent the shop actually was. Trying to calm my nerves, I put my head down on the counter to rest again. So she went back to rest her eyes. About 30 minutes later, I suddenly jerked awake. I felt this heavy, solid tap on my shoulder. It wasn't a soft breeze, it felt like a real hand with actual pressure. So when she was lying down, she felt this. I snapped my head up, expecting to see a customer, but the shop was completely empty. I told myself, okay, calm down, it's just your tired imagination. I turned around to grab my phone from behind me. But when I turned back to face the counter, so she took her phone. I let out a sharp gasp. Right there, inside the counter area, was a lady. She was heavily hunched back. Her body was facing away from me, but her head was tilted at this weird, unnatural angle towards my direction. So she was probably facing like this. Startled, I quickly managed to force a fake smile and said, sorry. She didn't react at all. She just slowly straightened her head. So because she was turning and looking at her, she straightened her head and walked past the counter and turned into the aisle shelves completely out of my view. Right after she walked past, this freezing wave of cold hair hit me, and all the hair on my arms stood up. That's when the realization hit me like a truck. The doorbell didn't ring. If a customer had walked in while I was looking for a phone, the bell that goes ding dong would have gone off. So how did she get inside? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe I missed the sound. So I just sat there. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed, and she still hasn't come out to pay or left the shop. The layout of the shop isn't that big. So, a bit nervous, I stepped out from behind the cashier area to check the aisles. Nobody was there. Not a single soul. Just as pure panic started setting in, I heard a loud knock. Just one single knock. I whipped my head towards the sound. I looked around, trying to find the source of the sound. Then I realized that it was coming from the front entrance. The same hunchback lady was now outside the shop. Her forehead was pressed flat against the glass door, staring at me, wearing this terrifyingly wide smile. I panicked so hard. I turned to run, tripped over my own feet and almost fell face flat on the floor. When I scrambled back up and looked at the door again, she was completely gone. I sprinted back behind the counter. My hands started shivering. I didn't dare leave the cashier area because I knew whatever it was, now it was just wandering just outside my shop. In my head, I was cursing those 5 boys over and over again for bringing that thing to my shop. I grabbed my phone and spammed calls to my best friend who lived in the area. No answer. Suddenly, something fell off the shelves in the back row. Was I going to check it? Hell no. I kept calling my friend until she finally picked up with a super sleepy voice. So probably the conversation went something like this. Because finally the friend picked up and said, "Hello, what is it? Please, I need you to come down to the 7-Eleven I'm working right now and accompany me." She groaned. "Babe, we can chill another time. I'm already in bed." I started crying. "Babe, please, I'm getting disturbed at this shop. I need you right now." Hearing the terror in my voice, she finally said, Okay, I'll be there." While waiting for her, I texted the whole story about the boys, the Ouija board and the hunchback lady, so she would know what was happening. After about 20 minutes or so, she finally pushed open the door. She walked up to the counter and asked, "Who was disturbing you?" I couldn't even speak. I just pointed at her phone and whispered, "Read the messages I sent you." As she read the text, I watched her face go totally pale. She looked at me with this expression of pure betrayal. So in her head, she was thinking I can't, probably that's what she was thinking. "I cannot believe you dragged me into this haunted shop right now." But honestly, I had no choice. I was dying of fright. And now she was too afraid to walk back home alone in the dark. So to try and lift the heavy mood, we huddled behind the counter, turned on a stand-up comedy show on my phone, and just stared at the screen. For the rest of the night, we heard footsteps shuffling down the aisles, random knocks on the glass, and items on the shelf just dropping. We can actually see it. We just ignored everything and kept our eyes glued to the phone until the sun finally started to rise and the first real customer walked in. Once my shift ended, I remembered what those boys said about Buang Sui. There was no way we were going straight home. My friend and I walked to a nearby mamak shop, crowded with people, and ate a heavy breakfast to shake off the negative energy before heading back. Thankfully, nothing followed me home, but I immediately took a 1-week leave from work just to make sure nothing was happening in work and it was all clear before going back to the night shift. And that's the scariest thing to have ever happened to me. Wow, so this story, we always heard about people going to adventures and then going to food shops or 7-Eleven or any kind of thing to buy drinks, and basically what Buang Sui means is that if anything that is attached to you, Buang is like throw, So you throw the spirit or whatever negative energy with you to wherever it is lah. So you wander somewhere else and not follow you back home. So unlucky for this person that the people that went adventure came to her shop instead and decided to buang sui at her shop. So what do you guys think about this? Let this be a warning lah. If you are out exploring places like those abandoned places, especially like Old Changi Hospital, and you feel like uneasy or you bring something back, don't go to this kind of convenience store and buang sui, because the night staff is going to experience things like this. Honestly, I've never heard a story about a 7-Eleven staff member saying that she felt anything. So this is the first story lah. So thanks for this submission, because honestly, it taught me to maybe just go to a mama shop instead of going to a convenience shop where people have to work there alone. So any of you guys have ever experienced something like this? If you have, remember, do submit your confessions or your stories to a dark tale on TikTok. Just DM me. Once I approve the request, then you can send me the whole story lah. And just not sharing the story, but I will ask you questions, and then I will make the story more special, so that when you hear the story, you will feel like you are actually in the story itself. So now finally we have come to the last story of the night, and I'm very, very excited to share this story with you. So if you guys remember the previous episode, if you haven't watched the previous episode, the last story from there is from the same person that submitted this story today. So if you haven't heard the last story, go to the previous episode and go watch the video, because it's the same person lah, technically. So this person have had quite a few paranormal experiences, and he has shared some stories with me. So I added this to the last one because I don't know. Honestly, I feel like this story, if someone else told me this story, I wouldn't believe it. But since it's submitted to me, I would love to read this story to you guys. But of course, always take stories with a pinch of salt. I don't know if that's the right term to use, but take these stories as just stories. Don't go dwell too into it, or go visit those places that I've mentioned in the stories, because it is not safe, and I don't want you to get affected by anything by watching my video. So let's start the last story, if you guys are ready. So this story, there's a title to this story, and it's called The 7-Month Visitor. I was only 9 years old when it happened, but even after all these years, I can still remember every detail. It was during the 7th month, what many Chinese families called the ghost month. The old folks warn us not to stay out late, not to whistle at night, and never to disturb things that did not belong to us. So there's a lot of things that we call pantang lah, meaning to say there's a taboo, I guess, or things that you shouldn't do, especially during this kind of timing. So back then, my handicap lived alone in an old flat at, maybe I won't mention the name lah of the place. But she used to live in this old flat. She had been unable to walk her entire life. Everyone in the family knew her condition. Standing up on her own was impossible. She has never done it lah. So one night, close to midnight, our home telephone rang. And this is during the 7th month lah, of course. My mother answered the phone. As they were talking on the phone, I watched her face slowly change as she listened. She just said nothing, grabbed her bag and rushed out the door. And after a few hours later, she returned. I will never forget the look on her face. She was pale. Not the kind of pale that comes from being tired. It was the kind that comes from seeing something that should not exist. So the conversation between the lady and the father went something like this lah. My mother and my father. So the father asked like, "Hey, what happened?" My mother just sat down quietly for a moment before speaking. When I reached your sister's house, she wasn't herself anymore. So basically what happened was my aunt had apparently been sitting in the living room laughing to herself. Not her normal laugh, a deep, unsettling laugh. So while she was sitting in the living room, they all suddenly heard a laugh. When her siblings tried speaking to her, she slowly turned her head and stared at them. Then she spoke, but the voice that came out did not sound like hers. It was rough, cold, almost masculine. According to my mother, the voice looked at them and said something like,
"I will take her away."
So basically saying, "I will take her away." Then it laughed again.
I will take her away.
I shouldn't have laughed like that. Nobody in the room recognized the voice. The atmosphere inside the flat became unbearable. Without wasting another second, the family carried my aunt out of the apartment and drove her to a Thai temple located on top of a hill. They hoped the monks could help. At first, my aunt remained silent. Then the chanting began. The monks sat before her and started reciting prayers. So it's like everyone basically, I don't know about what monk chant, but it was something like so imagine everyone just reciting like that. The chanting, the air inside the temple felt heavy. The chanting grew louder. And that was when the impossible happened. My aunt slowly stood up. The same aunt who had never walked a day in her life. The same aunt whose leg has always been weak. She stood, then she began to move. Not clumsily, not as if she was learning to walk. She danced. Slowly at first, her hands twisted gracefully through the air. Her body swayed from side to side. It looked like an old traditional dance, the kind that nobody had ever taught her. The monks continued chanting while the family watched in horror. Some began crying, others were frozen in place. No one could explain what they were seeing. One of the monks eventually stopped and spoke. "This is beyond us." He said, "You must bring her somewhere else." The family was then directed to a temple in Geylang, known for dealing with such cases. By the time they arrived, everyone was exhausted. My aunt sat silently, her eyes looked distant. So, like, people who get possessed, they just start looking around aimlessly, wandering around. The medium took one look at her. Just one look. Then he frowned. "Why did you bring her in so late?" The question sent a chill through everyone. The family had not even explained what happened yet. The medium instructed them to find a specific flower needed for the ritual. The problem was that the flower was extremely difficult to locate, especially in the middle of the night. But all my family members started searching across Singapore. So hours passed and everyone went around looking for the flower. Finally, someone found it in Bishan. The flower was brought back immediately and the ritual began at that same moment. Prayers echoed through the temple halls. Incense smoke filled the air. My aunt remained motionless. And suddenly, she let out a long scream and everything went silent. The strange laughter disappeared. The unfamiliar voice never returned. The dancing stopped. When my aunt opened her eyes again, she seemed confused, as if she had no memory of what happened. The family never spoke much about the night afterward. But whenever the 7th month comes around and the smell of burning incense drifts through the evening air, I find myself remembering the story. Because the part that still haunts me isn't the voice, it isn't the medium, it isn't even the flower, it's this. My aunt had never walked a single day in her life. Yet on that night, while the monks chanted, she stood up and danced. So that was the final story for tonight. Honestly, I think it was episode 3 or 4 where I read, go and see the title of the videos. Like I usually give description of the stories, and the story about, I think, the nurse where she got black magic and everything. And after reading the story, I fell sick for at least 5 days straight. It was 39.8, reaching even 40 degrees Celsius at that point. But of course, I managed to get better. But I told myself that if there was a story too hard to handle, maybe I would try to take it slow. But again, the content creator in me wants to share this story with everyone, because when someone shares their story with me, they sometimes want closure, or they just want to tell their story to someone. And same for me, because I'm doing this telling ghost stories. So if there's a story that I can tell, and this kind of story doesn't come often. A possession case where a lady can or his aunt can stand up and start dancing. If I was there and I was a family member, honestly, I don't know how I would react. And I want you guys to comment down below, what would you do if, let's say, you had an aunt who was disabled, who couldn't walk, and one day you find her sitting in your sofa, or standing up, or even starting to dance. Honestly, I will call for backup, because it's still my aunt and my family. I will call for backup and I will help her. But heck no, I'm not trying to do it alone. But yeah, honestly, reading this story sent chills through my body, and I have no idea why I just laughed like how I did, but it just came out. So well, I have no idea, but we should move on lah, of course. So moving on, we have unfortunately come to the last part of this video, and thanks for tuning in and staying all the way to the end of the video, because I really appreciate you, every single one of you guys. And thank you for everyone who just newly subscribed to my channel, for watching the videos, because every views means something. And eventually, if let's say this goes well, I can actually do more stuff, buy more better equipment. And I'm thinking, no promises again, but if now I'm at 906 subscribers, if I hit 1000 subscribers, I want you guys to tell me what I should do. Maybe adventure at some location. Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to do it alone because I don't really have people that still do adventuring. But if the chance get okay, if you guys comment below from the previous stories, I want you guys to edit the post and tell me if my channel hits 1,000 subscribers, where would you want me to go and adventure? So it can be a YouTube video, or you want me to do live where you can interact with me and tell me what to do next. Because when I hit 1,000 subscribers, it's not a lot, but at least it's a stepping stone, something special. So I would like to do something special for you guys. Maybe let's say every 1,000 subscribers, because I don't think I'm going to go higher that fast. But if I do that fast, then I will change the date maybe 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers. But for now, we're just getting started. Thank you for all your support again, for hitting, I think now we are at episode 8. Yeah, I think episode 8. And thanks for submitting your stories. Sorry, I wanted to combine submitting and sharing together, but thanks for submitting your stories. And if you guys got more stories, do submit. Even if it's not your story, it's your friend's story, do submit, because your story is what keeps the channel alive. And I like to thank everyone who submitted today's story as well. So thanks everyone for joining yet another episode of A Dark Tale and staying all the way till the end of the video. If you are still here, you are special to me, and I would like to say thanks to every one of you. So let's end the video here. And again, if you have a dark tale, and you know dark tales can get real dark real fast, submit your stories to my TikTok at a dark tale, DM me, and I will read your stories next week. Peace out. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.